שלום לכולם וברוכים הבאים לפודקאסט שלנו. אני רוני לוי, אינדסטרי מנג'ר בגוגל ישראל, ואני מאוד שמחה להיות כאן היום. הפרק היום מתקיים באנגלית, ובו אנחנו נדבר על חברה שהתחילה מרעיון מגניב ובערך $1,000 בכיס, ובמספר שנים בודדות הפכה לעסק ששווה מיליונים. נדבר על הסיפור שמאחורי ההצלחה, השינוי באסטרטגיה שהביא לצמיחה, והשימוש הנכון ביוטיוב. אז בלי עוד ספוילרים, החברה לפרק שלנו להיום היא VShred. וזה עכשיו הזמן שלי לעבור לאנגלית ולהציג בפניכם את ניק, קווין ווינס, הפאונדרים של VShred, ומי שמשמשים כמנכ"ל, מנהל השיווק והפנים המרכזיות של החברה. So thanks for joining us today. Hello again, Nick, Kevin, Vince. How are you today?
Great.
So it's actually your first time in Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you loving it?
Absolutely love it. Weather's perfect, food's amazing.
Yeah, the people are amazing. Everything's been awesome so far.
Great, great. What do you like the most?
The food.
The food. Okay. Good. So I'll suggest we'll start with something basic just to warm up. Tell us how it all got started.
So I was in London doing some work over there, and I went to a book signing, and I ended up meeting Kevin at that book signing, and we ended up talking for a couple of hours. I just fell in love with the kid, and he was a special person. So we stayed in contact, and then every time I would come to London, we'd hang out, or if I was in Europe or when he would come over to America, we'd hang out. We just became closer and closer and closer. Felt like just one of those special connections where I was like, this kid's different. He's a really special person. So once one of my mentors was getting me the marketing game, teaching me media buying and some of these things, I talked to Kevin, and he was working on some of that stuff too. And so whenever I moved to Los Angeles, I was telling one of my mentors, like, hey, there's a really special kid. We should get him over here while he's young, and start training him on this stuff. He's going to be really talented. And so eventually talked Kevin into moving to LA. He was still living with his parents. It was his first move was 3,000 miles across the world, which was pretty wild, to the Hollywood Hills. And then so Kevin and I worked on a bunch of projects over the years in LA, way before VShred, kind of honed our craft on marketing and media buying and things like that. Then we ended up running into Vince along that path, just from going out in LA, became really close friends.
I think we met Vince when he was 18.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Roger and I and Kev and Vince were all friends. Roger worked in nightlife, so just all started as just friends. We weren't even talking. Kevin and I were doing business together, but then as we got better and better at marketing, we were like, man, we really wanted to start some of our own products and our own projects. And so the idea for VShred just kind of came to me as like as a fun side project for the four of us to work on together. And then once we started getting into it, it kind of developed a life of its own. We became pretty obsessed with it. And we literally took $1,000, put it in a bank account, and never took a round of funding, never had any investment, VCs or anything like that. We didn't know what we were doing. Nobody would have invested in us. But it's a pretty cool story that, we took that from $1,000, and I think we've just crossed over 750 million lifetime now in what, 6-7 years now?
7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How come you picked the fitness and sport industry?
We wanted to pick something at the beginning. First off, when as we got closer and closer to Vince, he was doing modeling, and I was like, man, kept telling Kev, I was like, this is the most shredded kid I've ever seen, but it's still a very like attainable. You're not the big bodybuilder look, and he has such a good personality. I was like, man, he's still attainable. It's aspirational yet attainable, and he's very trusting. I was like, Kevin and I had done a lot of public speaking and presentation type stuff, and as we talked about, I was like, man, I think Vince could be really special on camera. He's just he's just got that star quality, and like I said, he was in insane, amazing shape. And then as Kevin and I had been working so many different projects over the years, we always said if we ever did start a full-on business, we wanted to do something that was a mega niche, that was hard to crack. But if you did crack it, the scalability is infinite. And we also wanted to pick a business that we would stay in love with for however long we did it. We didn't want to pick something boring that we weren't passionate about, because it would be hard to go to work every day. So with the fitness,
like a personal interest.
Yeah, personal interest.
An impact.
Yeah, and make a huge impact. That was the other thing, was like, we wanted something that if our families used it, something that we would, I don't know, that you just got inspired every day when you saw the changes from the customers, not just a pure money play where you're bored with it, but something where you woke up every day and felt inspired.
Wow, this is hysterical story. So you mentioned sport and fitness industry, which we all know is very, very competitive and aggressive. You did understand you need to come up with something that is unique, both emotional and from the product side. Can you share it, how you think about it, how you did it?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if I think when we first started, when we say we started with $1,000, that wasn't like we took that. That was kind of what we had. So I don't know if any of us were sitting there thinking we're going to go and build this behemoth of a company. We didn't know what to expect. The first office we worked in together was tiny, and there was us four and a girl, Summer. She was working for free because we couldn't afford to pay anyone. I don't think we knew what to expect. So to begin with, the goal was, let's just see if we can make a sale. Like Nick was saying, with Vince, everyone was always asking him, how do I get a six-pack like you? And we all assumed that everyone wants to get a six-pack. Like everyone in the world, that's what everyone wants. As the business has grown, fast forward, our demographic now is more, it's just people trying to lose some weight. Like people aren't really, we thought originally it was people want to get shredded and have a six-pack. Now as it's gone on, it's more a stay-at-home mom that wants to lose 20 pounds, or it might be a guy that wants to add 20 pounds of muscle, So to begin with, the unique proposition, the first product was an app product. Again, that's what we thought was the thing that everyone wanted. And when we first started getting the first few sales coming in, requests started to come in for other products, whether it be an arms program, a booty program, a full body program. And then things started to evolve. So the snowball started to build upon itself. I think one of the most unique propositions was Vince as a presenter. Very, very likable. He's charismatic. Everyone loves Vince. Spend 5 minutes with him. It's hard to not like him, So that was definitely a unique part of it. The other part is with fitness, I think there's just a lot of bad beliefs that are just instilled in everyone around the world, where it's, you think you have to spend 3 hours on the treadmill every day and hour and a half workouts every single day, and you have to be rigid with your diet and your nutrition. That's not really the case. So it's more, I think most people, when they want to start a new fitness journey and you start a diet usually, the word diet itself usually means something that's eventually going to come to an end. So that's not something that's sustainable or you can be consistent with. So I think with our programs, it was more as it began to evolve from the programs, and we started to see what people were responding to and what people were also, their goals were. The goal was more, how can we help people stay consistent with their nutrition, and less of a diet and more of a lifestyle that I can stick to.
Amazing. So it sounds like a lot of evolution, like you learned along the journey of VShred, like what people are actually looking for. And it sounds like a lot of like consistency, how people can really take it into their life and do it like as a day-to-day for the long term versus something that is really like concentrating in 1 month.
100%.
And then I'd add to that, I'd add a layer to that just from the marketing perspective is, what Kev described as how we develop the product, that unfolding from the customers' wants and desires and their feedback. From the marketing side, what we also discovered was to make it stand out, it was just a sea of, I don't say bad information, but a sea of so many competitors all saying, fad diets and all kinds of different stuff. And we were trying just a normal sales page. And what we found was it wasn't cutting through. They needed a lot more education. They needed a lot more, they had low trust because they'd failed at so many different things they tried. And when we shifted to the long form video sales letters, it gave us a chance to capture their attention, but then educate and build a lot of trust in those video sales letters. And that's when we really saw the marketing start to take off.
So you mentioned marketing, and it's great because we are Google. So let's take the marketing aspect for a minute. You're doing two really interesting, unique way of acquiring user. First, you use Vince as the face of the brand, and then you are acquiring users in a very non-trivial way. Can you speak more about it, how you thought about having one presenter, and how you thought about the acquisition with the education and long format ads in YouTube?
Sure. I'll take a piece of that. I think we can all jump in on this one.
Yeah, go for it.
When I was sitting with Vince for a long time, like when he first started, he hadn't done a lot of public speaking. He was so young, and so when he would but he was naturally great on camera, but
in the beginning,
but we had to do some work.
Yeah, we can see it now.
It was a pretty funny story. When we first started, we didn't have the money for a teleprompter, so we would write a bunch of stuff, and he would try to memorize it. It was bad, and he and I would sit in a room, and because I had taught some seminars and different things, I knew the importance of the idea of the avatar in marketing, right? And when you know your avatar, you need to speak to their pain points and speak to it from a place where you can build rapport and trust. And I think when he first started, he was so young, he was just talking to himself, you know?
Yeah.
So he was speaking from the vantage point of a 19-year-old, great-looking model, having fun, loving fitness, and, you know, speaking from that angle. And as we worked, as he did a lot of repetition, getting himself really good on camera, it was getting his mind around that avatar and really speaking through that. Because you're thinking, I remember when we first started, we were thinking, will he resonate with anybody? You know, would my mom resonate with Vince? And we came to find out that over time, once he did get that avatar in his mind and did speak from a very honest, pure place, that, man, they did resonate really well. But you have to really dial it into the avatar. So getting Vince, whoever is out there listening to this, whoever your spokesman is, they could be 2 degrees off. Even though they're a great spokesman, they could say all the right stuff. You could have a great script and all this stuff. But if it doesn't come through from a genuine place and hit that avatar just right, that wouldn't matter who the spokesman was. So that's one piece of it. And then I want to jump on some of the marketing side, some of the VSL stuff.
From the VSL side of things, with the long format of just the video in general, because we tried shorter videos in the beginning. When we first came out with our quiz, which is like really when everything started hitting, I remember going to my car and we kind of like talk about it in our little tiny blue office. And we'd be like, okay, what are like the main pain points? Like, what are we going to talk about? And I'd go and I'd film it, and it'd be like a 20-minute video. I'd come back and be like, no, that ain't it. I'd do that over and over. And then once we started introducing like twice as long of videos as that, which we thought were going to be way too long. We're like, who wants to watch an hour-long video? You'd be shocked. Like,
got better as it got longer.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, you just have more time to teach. You have more time to shift people's paradigms. You can talk about all the things that if you Google how to lose weight, there's going to be 30 different things that pop up, and so you can attack every single one of those and be like, okay, this might work if you're like this, or this is not going to work. Don't do this because this carbs regulate your metabolism. You have to eat them. Don't do cardio. It releases cortisol. So there's all this stuff that if you're just trying to get out these quick videos, it doesn't give you the time to really connect with them and get them to trust you. And so the longer form videos is really where everything kind of opened up.
And with those longer form videos, for those listening out there, I think we had to sit down and talk, the 4 of us. I remember early days saying, hey, we need to become world-class top 5% in the world at copywriting. And because there's a real structure to it. And I see a lot of great products out there that don't get off the ground. And I look at their sales page or their video. I'm like, oh man, they've got a beautiful product, but this is never going anywhere because the messaging dies with poor copywriting, right? So then the other thing with Kevin and I's background is we know the value and the importance of split testing. Split testing is everything. You'd be shocked how many of those videos that on our quiz that we'd have to test just the first 5 minutes, or just different chunks within it, or the whole thing, rewriting the whole thing, or him wearing a different shirt, or whatever it could be. But that split testing is when you're fighting in a saturated market like that, every little micro win, they all add up.
Like if you think about it from a numbers standpoint, if a 1% converting funnel is the standard, 1 is 1 out of 100 people. So is there a chance that if you tested some stuff that maybe out of the other 99 people that weren't interested, maybe one of those could push them over the edge? Then you've just doubled your conversion. So it's like some of the things are crazy that you just never know what's going to work. So it's like you really have to split test.
And what you
everything.
think is going to work never
works.
What you absolutely hate works.
But I think the paradigm shift there for somebody trying to get their marketing rolling is sometimes when we talk to people we're friends with or younger, new employees on our marketing team, they think you test a little bit. We're like, no, obsessively, violently test all the time. So many tests that you wouldn't believe how, from an ad buying perspective, how many ads Kev's team tests per week would blow your mind. It's thousands, sometimes. And then Same thing with the funnels. It's like you want to test every piece, and you can even look at your whole business as one big funnel to a degree.
Yeah.
So it's like testing to make sure the product's the best, making sure the layout, the UI, the UX. There's so much, but zooming it back into the marketing, it's just whoever your person is. That's the amount of repetition we did in the early days to get events just right on camera. We spent a lot, hours and hours and hours. We would sit there and film, and he'd be going, I'd be like, nope, stop, that's not it, it's not it. Just because I could feel, and as you're working with your pitch person, you got to like sit there and get the avatar in your head, and as they talk, you live the avatar in your head. Is this causing me anxiety? Do I feel like he's being cocky or dismissive about my fears or frustrations, or is he flipping objections off in my head, and am I sitting there nodding going, you get my pain, and you sound like you have the solution, and it's different than these other solutions that I've tried, and I believe you.
So what I'm hearing for you is that copywriting is a king, A/B testing is a must, and you need to have a presenter that can speak to everyone and can be as nice as Vince.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You said we needed a presenter. It was locked. You needed funnels. You had it. Can you tell us more how you used the platform in order to hit your business goals?
So when we started advertising on YouTube, and we thought that it's another traffic source, so we thought that the same ads on Facebook that would just translate onto YouTube and things should just work the same, but it's a completely different platform. People were on YouTube for a completely different reason. There was performance, but there was, again, it goes back to the split testing. It was a different environment. So what we thought was going to perform to begin with were the shorter videos, 30 to 60 second videos like they were working on Facebook. As we started to test more and more, it started to show that on YouTube, the longer form videos are really what started to resonate on the YouTube platform. By longer, I mean like 3 to 5 minutes, which was actually great. It gave us more of an opportunity to, people had a bit more time to watch Vince, showcase some customer testimonials. Like 30 to 60 second videos, it's tough to cram stuff in there. If someone hasn't seen you before and you have 30 seconds to catch their attention,
You got to cut right to the bone.
it's tough. But if you have 3 to 5 minutes, you still need to catch attention and keep engagement. But it really gave us more of an opportunity to showcase some more content, more time with Vince. And I think the other thing as well with YouTube, I really started to, obviously in the business, it was a massive impact overnight. Once YouTube started to take off, it doubled the business. It's a monster traffic source. But this, the exposure as well, the number of impressions that we were getting each day. Obviously we saw the results in the business, but then when I really started to notice how much of an impact it was having was when we'd be traveling or just walking around, and a lot of people just started to notice Vince.
Oh,
The
nice.
brand lift was
Massive. Whether we were in Brazil, Italy, Thailand, Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv people recognize
right.
you
That's
right on the beach.
Yeah. But yeah, so the impact was huge.
going back to the scalability thing for just a second. We tried different traffic sources, and we'd get all excited about a Snapchat or some of the other smaller ones we had tried, and you don't know their actual traffic numbers. And so Kev would turn on the ads on some of those smaller platforms. We'd get all excited, and then it would cap out.
Yeah.
And the scalability on YouTube, it's massive. So it's just such a nice second weapon for us that, like I said, it doubled our business. The relationship you get with the team, how much help they give you, it's just, they really want you to win on the YouTube platform, and they're really, really helpful. So it's just been a great partnership.
Can you speak a bit more about the organic side of the house? Because you're doing really cool stuff on your channel, and it gives you an opportunity to interact with the user. So some of the examples there, so the listeners can learn also on this side.
Yeah. The organic side's a little different because obviously you're not like trying to like make a sale, right? And so you can kind of go down a path of just teaching a bunch of different topics that aren't necessarily like the sexy topics. Like when you're trying to like get somebody to like get out of their shell, to trust you, to capture their attention, you're cutting straight to the bone on like, hey, stop following keto or whatever. With organic content, you can basically expect them to watch 10, 20 videos, and then it's more of like a lead. I'd say it's more of a lead generation
top of the funnel.
than like a sales driver, because that's how you build trust. If I go to YouTube and I watch a video from somebody about mindset stuff, and I might watch one video right there, I might watch 10 videos right there, I might come back tomorrow, see if you've posted a new video. And so it's kind of like building that relationship with the viewer. And the more you post, that's something we found early on, is like when we first started our YouTube channel, we do a video every day, and it wasn't necessarily like these super high quality videos, because people, honestly, they don't love super high quality videos. They like somebody, like back in the day when we were doing, I was going to the gym with our one employee who was not a videographer, and I gave her this little cheap camera that we had, and I was like, hey, stand right here, point it right here. And those videos are some of our biggest videos to this day, because people like that authentic feel. They like you talking to them. They don't like you talking at them. And so from the organic side, it's a cool little test where the more you put out, usually the better you're going to do. And you can focus on teaching a bunch of different things rather than just hitting on like the main. Like when it comes to getting in shape, there's a couple things that you need to do. When it comes to, or on like the paid side of things, you talk about the 3 big things, which are cardio, diet, working out. When it comes to organic, you can talk about anything. You can talk about sleep, you can talk about water, you can talk about anything really. And so it kind of opens up the door to all this other content that you can't necessarily put money behind it traffic wise, but then that builds that rapport, it builds the trust, it builds the relationship with the viewers.
And it also sounds like it's an ability to expand the audience,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're speaking about an ads perspective, it's one audience that is looking for something specific. But if you're speaking about like water, sleep, diet, it's more like more holistic audience in a way.
Yeah.
And it's nice too, like having the YouTube channel gives us a lot of content to keep our users engaged. So if somebody post purchase, you want them to stick around a long time. And so it allows us to send emails to that content that's not just a buy.
Yeah.
It shows them a different side of you.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
So that's amazing. So we spoke about organic and ads. Can you tell us a bit how YouTube evolved during the years from where it was in the past to where it's now?
The first ads that the first big ads that we used to run, especially back on Facebook early days, were image ads. So I remember the first time someone spoke about, you have to try these video ads, we were like, that's crazy, there's no way those are going to work. And of course that's where everything started to lean towards. I think one of the best pieces of advice I could say is the same split testing concept. It's just anytime there's something new, any new feature, go test on it. Because that tip of the spear, if you can crack that before everyone starts to swarm it, that's where 90% of explosive growth happens. To begin with, like I said, the shorter videos, those seem to perform to begin with. If we hadn't tested the longer form videos, we would have missed so much growth and so much scale. Now new things that have come out, like YouTube Shorts, that's becoming probably one of our biggest placements. And that's something that if we hadn't tested that, we wouldn't have known, and marketers are always going to be testing those new placements, things like CTV. If you're not on top of that, the game's it changes so quickly. So if you're not testing, if you're not trying out these new features, you're just missing out on potentially the new wave of what's going to be the next big thing. And if you miss that,
everybody to do it, you're already behind.
You're stuck.
So it's super interesting because everyone says testing, right? Every marketing will say you need to test. But what you're saying here is test it, but be the first to test it, or be as first as possible to test it. The one pushback that we hear a lot about testing is this: it costs a lot of money to test. So how you're doing testing with keeping in mind the target ROI?
Whatever's working, always double down on what's working. Like that's the bread and butter. But keep 10 to 20% of budget allocated towards testing new things. You have to, otherwise things decay. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever, no matter what it is. There's always going to be something new. Like, who knows, in 20 years, maybe we'll all be wearing headsets and that's where the advertising's, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. But for right now, like connected TV, that's one of the biggest new waves of where advertising is headed. I don't know many people, if I'm watching TV now, if we're watching sports, when the ads come on regular cable TV, we just mute. I don't want to hear it anymore. But now as I start to see advertising start to evolve on connected TV type platforms, it's new, it's fresh, it's actually more engaging. I don't see it as much as advertising. So connected TV is a huge one. YouTube Shorts, those have been, for us personally, they've been massive this past 6 months. They're quickly becoming one of our bigger placements. So yeah, I think best advice I could give is just whenever something new comes out and you don't feel like doing it, just do it, because who knows, it could be something, the next wave.
That's what I was going to add too, is I say Kev has really built a good culture on his team around, like, when some new feature comes out, they crack it and they don't give up till they do. I can't even think of a time whenever something new came out that if they didn't get it hit early, they just kept chipping away until it could be something we need to change on the funnel. It could need to be something they need to change on the way they're doing their ad or how they film it or whatever. But they just kind of make that part of the culture on the media buying side. Is like, we will crack that. And they will eventually do. And like you said, that tip of the spear, if you're one of the first ones to crack it, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so we have tested. Don't give up and try to be first.
100%.
This is cool tips. Cool. Okay, so VShred is 6-7 years old, and you grew super, super fast, and I'm sure you had challenges along the way. Can you share a bit about the challenges, what you observed, what is your biggest challenge now?
Sure. I think some of the hardest parts of that was when you start a company from $1,000 and none of us went to business school. None of us went to college for this. I have a political science degree, and so we truly are, when we say that in our story, we're truly self-taught from books and YouTube videos and just us locked in a room working 15, 20-hour days for a long, long time. It was hard. And so some of the early challenges that we had to face was like, everything's on fire. Everything's broken. You have no team, no systems, no processes. You don't even know how to do that. Even if you had money to hire people, you wouldn't know who to hire, or what those positions are even called, or what they do, or how to build culture. If you did hire them, how to onboard them, how to manage, all that kind of stuff. So I think early days, one of the biggest things you need to realize is being okay, or knowing what to leave on fire and which fires could take you out. And so you have to leave a lot of your business. There's certain things. There's still old videos we haven't had time to get around to, that we filmed on phones duct taped to a tripod or whatever. Literally. And it's frustrating because you want everything to be perfect. We're obsessed. It's our baby, but you have to make those decisions of like, what do we sequence in the right order to get out of this stuff? And then once you get it moving, I think you read a lot of stuff in business books around culture. Well, we always had great culture because it was our 4 best friends, and this was our obsession. Well, then when you start adding new team members that you didn't screen them properly, you didn't know how to hire, you didn't train them and onboard them properly, and you assume they care about your company the same way you do, and that's not a fair expectation, especially in those early days when you're not even communicating the culture and the mission and the vision properly, right? So I think as you get some of that, you can make a lot of mistakes and put yourself in bad positions by not respecting that. It sounds like, oh, culture is a big deal. Oh, it's a big deal. And then once you go through a couple of bad rounds of hiring too fast without taking the time to vet them to see if they are the right culture,
onboard correctly,
all those things, you can get yourself into some dangerous positions because you're handing over giant chunks of your company to people that, that you've got to be able to trust and that believe in that vision with you. So I think getting the culture piece dialed in at scale is still something that has taken, one of our biggest challenges, but something that we think about, we're conscious about all the time now. And then I think one of the biggest challenges for any company is a constant game of fighting to extend the LTV. And that's a really, really hard challenge. That's not something that you can just test into quick. Right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of long-term testing. Okay, we tried this, we made this shift. We won't get to see how it plays out for 6 months, a year, and trying to be more tactical with that by, talking to your customers more, seeing what they really want, and then making sure that you kill bad ideas quick, and then making sure you're not getting false positives on, oh, we made this change here, it made more money in the short term, that's exciting, but it hurt us in the long term. So I think the LTV is one of the biggest challenges constantly.
Yeah, I think the talking to your customers is a huge one. One of our mentors that Nick found, he was the ex-CEO of a huge, I don't know if it's a company or what would you call it, a conglomerate? I don't know, but he told us he was the CEO globally of that company, and he said the first thing he would do anytime he flew to a new city is he would set up, arrange to fly to a customer's house. He wouldn't even go to a hotel, and he'd go straight to that customer's house. It wasn't like he'd just show up unannounced. They knew he was coming.
I'm laughing. Maybe I think about it. When you arrived to Tel Aviv, you went to the first customer in Tel Aviv.
And he would stay with them for like 3, 4, 5 days, and they wouldn't really talk. He would just observe, and he would observe how the customer uses their products, and he said it was the best feedback. It was game changing for the company. He's getting real world feedback, seeing exactly what their problems are, what their struggles are, what they like about the product, what they don't like. How, if you don't have that touch point with the customer, how do you know? So we actually ended up building a whole department in the business now. We call it VPulse, and we reach out to our customers, and it's mandatory. Everyone in the company does it, and we speak to customers one-on-one, and it's just raw feedback. And man,
it's awesome.
The feedback we got from that is, you sit there in your room behind your laptop thinking what's next and thinking what the customers want, and then you get on a call with a customer and you're like, whoa, that's the feedback we needed right there. So that was definitely a big one. We it's not that we didn't want to do that kind of stuff. Of course we did. It's just this thing grew so quickly, so much faster than I think we ever expected and ever knew that it could even get to this scale. There's so many of these things that we did want to do. It's just, which one do you do first? And it's that the whole world feels like it's burning all the time, and you're like, okay, I know everything's on fire. Which one's on fire the most? And I know this is going to suck. The other stuff needs attention, but it's working down that priority list of what's next.
Nice.
Another thing I'd add there is just trying to not, one of our biggest challenges right now is what makes you very powerful, that gives you secret edge, I guess, against big companies early days of a startup, is you can move so fast. There's not a bunch of red tape. It's you're on a jet ski, and you're nimble. And as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, you can feel that you have more need for some bureaucracy and some red tape and some of that stuff. But fighting ruthlessly to be like, where are we over processing, over engineering things? Where can we remove red tape? Or what's the minimum effective dose of bureaucracy that we need, so we can still maintain that nimble startup speed and violence that makes you so powerful early days. And then the last one I would say would just be the tech and the data side. The tech and the data can absolutely kill you, and if you can get that right, we have this phrase we always like, our North Star for the tech and the data is that the company can move at the speed of marketing. Marketing wants to go fast and go crazy, and wants to test everything, and has an idea in the shower and wants to get it live. And we want to like not ever kill that creativity. We want to get the tech and the data in a place where if a marketer has an idea on a run, go get it live. Go. Because that's where you got to test 1,000 things to find one heroic, epic thing that goes, gangbusters. So the more you clog up the marketing and clog up the teams where they're blind on the data, or it takes forever to get something live, that creativity just starts to decay, and you can feel that archetype of TTI or whatever you call it, what marketers usually are like. You want to let them be free. You want to let them run. And so I think our biggest challenge right now is that we've scaled so big, we've got new tech and data needs at this size that we've got to get dialed in.
Super interesting. So we said a lot about focusing, right? Which fire to leave aside and which fire to manage. And you talk a lot about user engagement, like they will tell you what's next, and to engage the user, and how to scale correctly from this position with the data and measurement. So tell us a bit, what's next for VShred?
Like I said, the LTV thing is always going to be a big deal. And this year we've after talking to a lot of our customers, we're finding out that we've always had our coaching programs. So we've got digital products that you can do yourself, but we've also got over 100 trainers where you can get a personal one-on-one virtual trainer, and the customers just love it.
Wow.
They go crazy for it. And so we've tried to really take that to another level, and we've created a more of a high ticket program. It's more expensive, but the touch points are different. You get a lot more feedback, and
People love it.
They love it. So we're really leaning into that, which is great for us too, because the customers are happier. It's a big lift on the LTV. It causes a ton more referrals because people are getting such great results. And then we're also trying to get our clothing line off the ground.
Wow.
And but those are our two main next projects that we're leaning into now.
Amazing.
I'd say the other one is probably VShred Plus also.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little subscription site that basically we want like the Netflix of fitness.
Valuetainment of
Yeah.
fitness.
Yeah, give them everything they could ever need. Go in there, not even for fitness stuff. If they're just bored and they want to watch a motivational video or they want to learn about
How to
some
make a
random
recipe.
thing, they can just go in there and they can spend some time in there, hang out. Nice community. That's the other thing is like we have trainers posting workouts in there, videos every single day. My mom tells me all the time that she goes in there like every week and she reads these stories and it's like her favorite place to be. It's super cool.
Super inspiring.
But like that's kind of what we want like the next phase of VShred to be, VShred Plus to be, is like that all-encompassing community where you can go in there, not just if you're trying to get shredded or anything like that, but if you're just looking for a little bit of support.
Nice. So it's like one-stop shop for everything
Right.
around what you feel like fitness,
Wellness,
sport,
health.
wellness.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming today. I hope you enjoy Tel Aviv and the sun. And it was really, really nice to host you guys. Thank
Thanks
you so
for
much.
having
us. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome.
Thank you. טוב, אז תודה רבה לכם שהאזנתם. כל הפרקים שלנו זמינים באתר, אתם יכולים להקליק על הטאב ולהזין לפרק נוסף. בנוסף, ככה סתם שתדעו, תוכלו למצוא הרבה תוכן מקצועי שיכול לתת לכם השראה. אתם מוזמנים לעבור על הכל, להאזין, לצפות ובעיקר ליהנות. נתראה בפרק הבא, ועד אז, להתראות.